Well, it's time for business now with Kate Moody. Kate, good to see you.
Hi there.
Consumer prices still rising more than expected in the US.
Yeah, despite a general downturn, the inflation numbers, still well above the central bank's target of 2% and much hotter than most forecasts had predicted for the month of January. Consumer prices were 6.4% higher last month than they were a year earlier. That's compared to 6.5% in December. Economists had predicted a more significant slowdown to around 6.2%. The high cost of food, energy, and housing were among the driving factors. The data will mean more questions about the U.S. Federal Reserve's recent slowdown in raising interest rates from 0.75 percentage point throughout 2022 to just a 0.25% move earlier this month. Higher inflation rates tend to help fight high inflation by encouraging consumers to save rather than spend. But analysts say it's clear the Fed's battle to control the cost of living is far from over. The producers group OPEC said that global demand for oil exceeded pre-pandemic levels during the last 3 months of 2022 and will keep rising this year. Demand is being spurred in part by the lifting of COVID restrictions in China. OPEC and its allies have resisted calls to pump more oil in a bid to lower global prices. The European Parliament has given the green light to a plan to ban the sale of new petrol and diesel cars from 2035. The law is part of the EU's broader ambitions to combat climate change and become a global leader in clean technology. Monty Francis has more.
And it is adopted, and thereby the first reading of Parliament is closed.
And with that, a landmark law cleared a final legislative hurdle. The EU Parliament officially banning the sale of new gas and diesel-powered vehicles in the EU starting in 2035. Ahead of the vote, supporters said the law was needed to speed up the switch to electric vehicles and to combat climate change.
The industrial revolution is happening, whether we like it or not. We can choose to lead it, or we can leave it to other parts of the world to lead it, and then all we can do is follow.
In addition to the total phase-out of gas-powered cars and vans in 2035, the law also requires a 55% cut in CO2 emissions for new cars sold from 2030 compared to 2021 levels. But opponents, led by conservative MEPs, argued that the industry was not ready for such a dramatic step and that the move put hundreds of thousands of jobs at risk. A member of the center-right European People's Party saying, "Our proposal is to let the market decide what technology is best to reach our goals." But the market is already making the switch. Volkswagen, for example, has said it will only produce electric vehicles in Europe starting in 2033. The new law covers cars and vans and not trucks and buses. With that in mind, the European Commission unveiled plans Tuesday to require urban buses in the EU to be zero carbon emitting by 2030 and to slash emissions from new trucks sold from 2040 by 90%.
Well, despite that ramping up, Ford is looking to pare down its workforce in Europe. Over the next 3 years, the U.S. auto manufacturer says it will cut 3,800 jobs, more than half of them in Germany and some 1,300 in the UK. It's part of an effort to streamline operations as it faces economic challenges as well as increased competition in the electric car market. The stated aim to offer an all-electric fleet by 2035, though, still has not changed. Air India has announced one of the biggest ever orders of new planes in what could be a post-pandemic boost for the aviation industry. The carrier confirmed it will buy 250 planes from Airbus, most of them narrow-bodied A320neo jets, along with 40 wide-body long-haul planes. That's on top of 220 planes from U.S. manufacturer Boeing, including 190 of its 737 MAX model. The lion's share of those planes will be powered by CFM engines. That's a joint venture between General Electric and the French manufacturer Safran. The Tata conglomerate bought Air India from the government last year, ending more than 70 years of state control of the carrier. On a video call announcing the deal with French President Emmanuel Macron, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said India would become the world's third biggest market for the aviation sector in the coming years, and that the order would help strengthen the country's infrastructure and industry. really a much-needed boon for those manufacturers.
Absolutely, and a massive market to tap into there as well. I personally miss the supersonic days. I want a Concorde replacement would be great for me.
I'll put in that message to them.
If you could, let
Yeah.
me know. Emmanuel Macron has got the inside track there, Kate Mooney.